captions. So, Michelle was very adamant that her talk had to have closed captions because she cares and she loves everyone, as do we all, as do we all. All right, so for those of you who are new to our circuit, my name is Todd Albert. I'm the founder and one of the lead instructors here at Boca Code, which is a new code school that just launched here in South Florida. We do things a little bit differently than a traditional code school. We actually take on projects for small projects for local companies, or big projects for small local companies, either way. And so our faculty, which includes, Mariella and Michelle and myself and a few others, we actually get to work on real projects, and as well as our students. So our students get to actually get their hands dirty with real code, and get real life experience working with some real projects for real companies. So it's kind of a great opportunity for small local businesses where they can get affordable development work. It's a great opportunity for our students because they get to actually graduate with real world experience and be ready to go with no additional training. So that's a quick bit on Boca Code. I'm going to turn it over in a moment to Michelle Bakels, but I just want to give you guys a quick little background on Michelle. There you go, Jan, your video is working now. Michelle is our latest hire here at Boca Code, and we're very fortunate to have her. She comes to us from NextEra Energy, where she was one of their, or where she currently is one of their lead software engineers. She's also done a considerable amount of teaching, and most of the teaching that she's done in the tech space has been through volunteer work, which is what she's going to be talking to us about today. And she's just one of these people who's extremely passionate and extremely involved in the tech community. So we're really lucky to have her at Boca Code, and so we're really lucky to have her talking to us today about volunteering in tech. So Michelle, take it away.
All right, thank you. I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and I'll preface this a little bit. Today we're on a bit of a tight schedule. So I'm hoping to leave a little bit room at the end here for Q&A. If you run out of time, you can always reach out to me. And Todd, I somehow lost my mouse, but...
Yeah, that's what I was saying with presenting. It's kind of a pain. So I'll manage Zoom. You just manage your talk.
Okay, so when I'm on my screen, you can see all the windows of everybody's pictures on the side, right? Like you just see my PowerPoint.
There's a way to set that up in the future. I'll show you how. Okay. But for today, just go. I got Zoom, don't worry.
Okay. All right. So thanks everyone for joining today. As Todd said, my name is Michelle Bakels. I'm the newest addition to Boca Code, and I'm going to be speaking today about volunteering in tech, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time volunteering in tech in a lot of different ways. So today I'm happy to share it with you. I've given this talk a couple of times, and for me, I personally like to start it off by talking a little bit about my own personal experiences with learning tech. I was not like one of these like naturally gifted technical people. So I personally benefited from a lot of people volunteering their time to work with me. And then we'll talk about why we want to get involved in tech and ways to get involved with tech. So about 8 years ago, I got my first degree in art history and Italian from UCF. I moved to Italy for a little while where I taught English before coming back to the United States and becoming the assistant director at a gallery up in Palm Beach Gardens, up in Palm Beach Gardens from here. And it was while I was at this gallery that I began to work on their website, and that experience paired with my experiences of meeting and knowing people who studied computer science while I was at UCF kind of gave me this idea like, okay, I want to be a software developer and go back to school for computer science. So that fall I enrolled at FSU and I took advantage of their online bachelor's program in computer science. And I started my classes, And I was on my third assignment in my intro to programming class, which was in C++, and I had this absolute meltdown. I read all of the required readings, the notes, everything I could get my hands on, and I just couldn't even figure out what was being asked of me to know how to complete this assignment. And in retrospect, that assignment was garbage. But at the time, I didn't really realize that. I didn't understand that. So I completely internalized all of my frustrations. And at this point, I had been in my programming classes for probably not even a month. And I was like, all right, I can't do this. This isn't for me. You know, there's a reason why everyone says this is hard. There's a reason why not everybody does this. And I was really ready to quit. But I thought, okay, before I quit, let me just see if I can get a tutor to help me. And if that helps, then I'll keep going. But if it doesn't, then, all right, like I'll just go back to art. It's fine. So through the grapevine, I got out that I needed some help. And by through the grapevine, I mean, somehow I said that I needed help, and an hour later, Joe Russo's calling me. Joe Russo being the CEO and founder of Palm Beach Tech, who I had never met or spoken to before in my life, is calling me and telling me, hey, I heard you needed some help with your CS classes. What do you need? So I told him, and then, maybe 30 minutes later, he calls me back again, introducing me to Chris Cabrera, who at the time was the director of engineering for a local fintech company or financial technology company in West Palm. And he offered to help me with my course material. So Chris and I met up, and he obviously helped me immensely. And at the end of our tutoring session, I tried to pay him, and he refused to take any kind of payment, which was so annoying. But at the same time, I appreciated it because I was broke. But ever since then, Chris actually became my tutor and my mentor for everything in tech. So, Chris always made himself available to talk to me about everything from binary search trees to interview advice to how to read and understand requirements, and sharing his own salary with me, telling me what he thinks competitive offers look like in our area. So just being very transparent and open. And once again, in retrospect, I can say with absolute confidence that without this support system around me, I very well could have just unjustifiably given up on coding and my FSU degree program and thought that, yes, that's correct. You can't do this. So fortunately, that didn't happen. I moved onward, and a year after my first semester, I thought, okay, this is definitely not going to be easy, but it's just a different kind of work. It's a different kind of effort that I'm used to, and I have this support system around me. And I started to get kind of uneasy thinking about like all of the people that had probably at one point been in the same place as I was on assignment 3 and didn't have a support system around them to help them through it, or couldn't get help in some way. So at this point, I decided that I wanted to find an organization in Palm Beach County where I could help students learn how to code. And at the time, there really wasn't much available, but there was a chapter of Girls Who Code at the Mandel Library that I asked if I could help facilitate and be a part of, and they allowed me to do that. So I did that for a few years. And shortly after that, I began volunteering with Code Palm Beach, which is this incredible organization that holds self-paced coding courses for free for students in Palm Beach County. And now we're actually expanding into South Florida as well. So in addition to this, I was invited to teach a wearable technology class in New York for Girls Who Code over the summer. I began volunteering with Built by Girls, which is a one-on-one mentoring program for young women interested in technology. And I also did several volunteer efforts with Next Era Energy after I started working with them. So in 2019 and 2020, I logged over 300 hours of volunteering and supporting technology-related efforts. And I learned a lot from these volunteer experiences and spending time with people who are beginning to explore technology and pursue technology. And one of the most unexpected things that I came to learn working with these people at all different ages from all different backgrounds is how little of my efforts in working with them in tech was actually teaching them tech skills, and how it really had so much more to do with actually just sharing my tech knowledge, which is a little bit different, my tech experiences. So of course, I've done countless coding tutorials and whiteboarding and debugging student projects, but at the end of the day, it's really up to the developer to continue learning and building their skills on their own. So all I'm really there to do at the end of the day is just try and get this snowball to roll down the hill. And that just makes volunteering in tech that much easier, right? Because you're just there to encourage people to keep going and help get anything out of their way that would stop them from moving on. So again, what I found was that a lot of my time spent volunteering my tech skills was actually volunteering my tech experiences. And once people become interested in coding, they're going to take off with it in any direction they want to go down. But one of the most common things that everyone has, or that most people have in common that I work with, I should say, is that there's this huge intimidation factor around working in tech. So when I'm at a lot of these volunteer events, I spend a lot of time answering questions like, what are interviews like? What kind of projects can I work on? I don't see a lot of people like me in tech. Is this something that I'll be happy doing? Is this a workplace that I'll be welcome? What am I expected to know when I start my first job? What kind of salary should I expect? What would be a fair salary? And these questions take no kind of formal technical education to answer. Like when I was in my CS program, we didn't have a class discussing how to converse with people about these topics, right? But they're just things that you learn in time and with experience. And even if you can't answer the questions, usually sharing whatever you do know is enough to kind of help quell those hesitations or those anxieties again. And it's really important that people feel comfortable and confident in continuing their tech education and their tech careers, because our future so desperately depends on technology and for professionals to fill these roles. So now that I kind of went over my own story, I would like to get involved. I'd like to get into why to get involved. So I'll start by discussing some extrinsic motivators, because I kind of see it like two camps: extrinsic motivation, intrinsic motivation. So last year, Code.org updated their annual report saying that there were roughly 390,000 open computing jobs in the United States. And of those, about 16,000 of them were in Florida. Meanwhile, same year, we have only about 70,000 students graduating from computer science classes in the United States, while in Florida, again, only about 3,400 computer science students are graduating from our programs. So currently in our state, we have about 4.5 times the number of open computing jobs than we have graduates coming out of our programs. So this really tells us that we can't just leave it up to people joining computer science programs. You know, it's not just about like allowing these things happen naturally. You know, we need to not only, you know, support students in pursuing computer science programs, but also we can reskill. You know, we can come to a place like Boca Code and join this workforce and help fill these open positions in computing. Because it's important, because you know, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that we're only going to expect to see these numbers grow by about 20% over the next 8 years. So we're always going to be playing this game of catch up unless we start doing everything that we can to fill this need. So referring to the same Code.org research, only about 30% of high schools teach foundational computer science classes at the moment, while 67% of principals believe that this is a course that is just as important as their other core courses and their required courses. And even more staggering, 90% of parents want their students to learn this. They want their students to learn, or they want their kids to learn computer science. So of course, a lot of volunteering in tech is about giving back to the community, sharing something that you're passionate about, and encouraging people to pursue tech. But you personally do get a lot of value out of volunteering in tech as well. So now I'm going to flip over to the intrinsic motivators. So first, volunteering to teach someone something, anything, is always going to help you learn it better or reinforce your skills. So I spent about 2 years building really complex React and TypeScript applications at Nextera before I gave my first developer training in each of those topics. And I was so surprised to discover how much about React or how much TypeScript I still hadn't learned yet, or concepts that I realized I didn't understand that well, or things that I kind of just took for granted when using these technologies that I was like, oh, there's a reason why it's like that. So teaching somebody something is also a really good opportunity to learn something better yourself. Second, you meet awesome people. The networking when you're volunteering in tech is second to none. I mean, it's truly the best way to get connected with people in the tech community. I don't want to start dropping names, but I'm going to start dropping names. So I have had the opportunity to volunteer alongside the director of engineering for PGA, the CTO of Hello Labs for like 2 years straight. I met the VP of application development for Office Depot for the first time by teaching his daughter how to write HTML and CSS. And of course, I have met twice now my bosses, my future bosses at volunteering events. So before I began working at Nextera Energy, I met Michael Fowler, the VP of Near IT, at a volunteering event where later I sent him my resume and was able to start working at Nextera Energy. And I met Todd Albert, the founder of Boca Code, at a volunteering event where now I am working. So, if you're looking for a job, volunteering in tech is a great way to meet people who are probably hiring. Another cool thing is one time the CEO and founder of Girls Who Code commented on one of my Instagram posts about an event that I was working. So not quite the same, but also really cool. So third, volunteering in tech looks great on your resume. There's that old joke that kind of like, every job listing asks for experience, but if you don't have experience, then how do you get experience to meet the requirements for that job posting? And this kind of creates this paradox. Well, volunteering in tech is a way to get that experience. And no, it doesn't replace something like, needing 5 years experience building enterprise applications with Java. But if the job posting is looking for a junior developer to build web applications, and you've never worked for a company before, but you spent the last year volunteering to teach kids how to build websites with Code Palm Beach, that might be enough to get your resume in front of a manager and get called in for an interview where you can build on top of that momentum. And I don't really, I don't suggest this in a naive sense. Like I said, I have 2 jobs based on connections from volunteering, and I have had personally really great interview experiences directly tied to my volunteer experiences. And on the flip side of that, I have been responsible for bringing in people on my dev teams whose resumes stood out in a C because of their dedication to volunteering. So once again, it's a great way to get tech experience on your resume. It also helps you communicate technically. So one of my favorite quotes from an article I read a little while ago is that the days of the brilliant lone hackers are over. So in most tech jobs, you're going to be expected to communicate with people of all different technical skill sets. And they might not know all the acronyms, they might not know all the jargon, but all of your knowledge is meaningless, honestly, unless you are able to communicate with someone to the point where you can move forward together and be productive together. So volunteering in tech gives you this unique opportunity to constantly exercise that skill of communicating complex topics with people of all different technical knowledge ranges. So moving into ways to get involved, now that we're all super motivated to start working in tech and we're just jumping to get started, I'm going to go through a few ways to get involved. First, we have community volunteering. So, of course, I have Code Palm Beach here. Currently, I fill the role as the vice chair of Code Palm Beach, and this came after about 2 years of working with them and starting off as a volunteer with them. One of the things that I love so much about Code Palm Beach is it's really this grassroots effort from people who work in and around technology to try and provide coding education and exposure for students in our communities. So if you're ever interested in getting involved with Code Palm Beach, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you get started because we're always looking for volunteers. Of course, we also have here Girls Who Code, which has some local chapters that you can get involved with. Community centers and libraries are always adding programming. I've been seeing more and more of it these days, and hackathons. So when I put this in the slide, I meant volunteering to help at a hackathon, like when Todd and I coached them. But Todd brought up a really good point to me earlier that participating in a hackathon is technically volunteering as well. So even participating in a hackathon is a great way to get involved. There's also workplace volunteering. So a lot of these events in the community are usually in the afternoons or the evenings. So if that's tough for you, you can see what your employer is doing, see if there's any way to get involved with events that they set up. You can always create your own events if there's nothing there. This is a snapshot from an event that I created with a couple of colleagues. And finally, this is probably one of my new favorite things, and it's virtual volunteering, obviously super imperative at the moment. So this is built by girls. Code Palm Beach is also completely virtual right now. So the last thing that I want to leave you with in closing, I'd like to mention this quote from Sandy Castrol of IC Stars. What our communities need now more than ever are leaders from within. And what I love so much about this quote, if you hear Sandy talk about this, is that the leaders that she's referring to are the people, the tech professionals that we're raising up. So it is the hope and the intention that with a dedication to knowledge sharing and volunteering, that this next wave of tech professionals can become the next tech leaders in our communities, and we can all have a part in helping them achieve that success. Thank you. And I think
That was awesome.
this really close to time. Todd, I don't know. I know you have to.
We've got a couple.
To Ashley.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes for questions, so I want to give a chance for questions. I just also want to say thank you, Michelle. That was really great. I hopefully you guys all got something from that. One of the questions that came up during the talk in chat was about does volunteering and does participating in a hackathon count, and you covered that. I want to just let you guys know that there's been some discussions that I'm having on some of these committees that I serve on in the South Florida area, that there's a lot of need in the schools or at like Michelle pointed out, for younger people to have mentors by people like us, right? They need even people who like Rebecca, who's just learning, she's just getting started in coding. There are high school students that you would be able to mentor. And we're actually working on putting a system in place where code school students could mentor high school students. And then by doing so, they would get a mentor from the professional community. So kind of as like a pay it forward sort of system, that a professional like from Office Depot or somebody would mentor you, and then you're mentoring a high school student. There's some argument that, hey, it shouldn't be like tit for tat like that, but it is really important and definitely needed. So do we have any quick questions for Michelle? We've got about 2 minutes before we've got to switch over to another talk. Dennis,
I'll just
good.
make a comment because I always been for IBM for a long time, and they were big on volunteering, and I really benefited a lot by first just doing some activities for Engineering Week in a couple of school systems, and it wound up turning into a decade-long sort of effort to sort of coordinate, and it just was a wonderful experience, motivating eighth graders and fifth graders just about tech and STEM, and it was a fun project. But I've met a lot of people, and some of my one most rewarding things I've had through my career was a thank you note from a VP I brought in to speak, and she just had a wonderful day. And that was it's just a wonderful experience. You learn a lot, you benefit, you meet a lot of people you might not interact with on a day to day business. I would definitely, if you're in a work environment, I would definitely make sure you look around, and I bet your employer would be very happy to have you represent their school in front of the engineers or tech week or something like that. So it's just a comment.
That's some that's something too that
Absolutely.
Michelle didn't even mention, was that like another benefit is like the feel good aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
That like the rewards that you get, that just, those internal rewards too. And Ken also mentioned getting involved in like the open source community, contributing to open source, really big.
Yep.
All right.
There's so many ways
Any
you can
close?
almost create them yourself.
I just
Absolutely.
wanted to, hey Michelle, thank you so much for this. Definitely, it's. I wanted just to throw out there that even if you are just getting started, like Todd mentioned, even if you know just a little bit of HTML, CSS, there's always somebody else that doesn't know that. So you could be a mentor, you could be help out. So don't feel afraid. I used to feel afraid, like, oh my God, I don't know anything. But you'd be surprised that sometimes you know more than somebody else, right? Nobody knows it all. So definitely just get out there.
Absolutely, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we have to cut this short. I'd love to
I'm
talk about
available
this
on
for
LinkedIn or whatever. If anybody has any questions, please just reach out.
Michelle at bocacode.com.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Well, hopefully we'll see you in the next Zoom.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.